Mm. Hi guys. So the session's recorded and I'll happily post it in a bit, but I'm just going to wait a moment to see if anyone does log in. I know it's kind of that time of year and things are busier and the weather's getting warmer and also it's evening time. So no worries. If you couldn't log on live time, I'll get started in just a couple minutes. I'm going to see if I can just check in on Facebook and make sure that that no one's struggling to get in. So just bear with me for a second. All right. I'll begin, and if anybody does log on, then I'll happily just recap. So welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday, and tonight I actually thought I would just explore probably a session best with even one other person, but I thought I would explore the impact of COVID-19. And the reason why I felt compelled to address it is because I do feel that we all collectively, as a world, went through something pretty incredible, I suppose. I don't know whether incredible is the right word, but it was life changing. And for some of us, we maybe don't directly feel the impact of that, but for many others, this has been like a very life-changing experience for our well-being. So maybe COVID, I wanted you to explore, maybe just take a minute, grab a piece of paper and write down for you kind of like the highs and the lows of COVID. And I think it's a really good exercise to just take time to reflect because that was collectively I want to use the word trauma that we all experienced together. And we all had very different perspectives on what that looked like. So maybe write your pros, like what were the good things? What are the things? Because there's so many people like, I really miss those days. And then I also have, on the other side, like if we were to kind of list the experiences, for some of us, that was a very, very, very hard. So we started out in a situation where we are hearing all over the world about this crazy disease. And I don't know about you, but I heard about it. I think firstly I'd got back from working a retreat in Morocco, which seemed like such a dreamy experience. And I got back. I was pregnant actually with my little girl who's turning 4 this August. But I was pregnant with her, like kind of moving through that like early to halfway point. And I personally just remember like everything slowly kind of came to a halt. We suddenly were just told that from being these like very social beings, working people, we started to experience something like nobody knew how to navigate. And everything started to close in bit by bit by bit. And what that does for us in terms of our brain, I think it's really interesting is that our first reaction often is like fight or flight when we don't know the unknown. So I know many friends, many people, many conversations I had, there was a lot of talking I felt at the beginning. I personally felt there was a lot of like, what does this look like? Or I can't believe this is happening. And at the very beginning, I felt like, I was conversing a lot. There was lots of communication between family and friends. Lots of a little bit of hysteria, worry, but there was lots of talking out the situation. And what we went into as like a collective like humanity was fight or flight or freeze. And our nervous system, most of us, I don't know many people, even if I reflect on my husband who's all calm, cool, collected, he didn't necessarily go into panic, but definitely experienced those feelings of like, what is this? I remember all of us thinking like, I don't understand. And it was scary, wasn't it? It was scary that society now had to go, and we're human, and we forget that being human means that we are social beings. Like in order to fulfill the human experience, we need to communicate with other people. It is just unfortunately, if some of us don't like that social interaction, unfortunately, it is what makes us feel, you know, uh, alive and connected and fulfilled and potentially like fills those the hormones that make us feel happy. Human connection is such a huge part of it. And if you ever like study Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's this lovely little triangle. And as you kind of move up that hierarchy of needs, something that we can look at in another session, but very like very low down, the first important thing to like be fulfilled and supported as a human is your basic like safety needs. And then we go up into a sense of belonging. And, amongst these like five or more, depends on, the research. But this triangle, this pyramid suggests that like at the bottom of the pyramid, that's the foundation. And then as you move up, you need to feel a sense of belonging. And I guess where I'm trying to go with this discussion is that by experiencing COVID, some of us were stuck on our own. Some of us were in a very small bubble. Some of us were stuck away from friends and family. And some of us, it took us from a place of loneliness into even further loneliness. Or some of us, it took us into fight or flight, and it triggered maybe these sorts of emotions. And so at first, it felt really unknown and it felt overwhelming. And over time, we sat there, didn't we, for months and months on end, wondering what was going to change, watching the news, listening, to the guidance from, obviously in the UK, the Prime Minister or President, whoever it is, listening to our leaders and trusting, what they're offering. I'm Canadian and I live in the UK, so we were forever just trying to figure out, what this looked like and how we can move forward. And the neuroplasticity in our brain, we did not have, a pathway, and we did not have like these neurological pathways telling us what to do. We only had pathways showing us how to be these social creatures. And so COVID essentially has some, over time, we started to build new synapses, and neuroplasticity in the brain started to allow us to change our thinking. We had to in order to adapt. That's what we do well as a species, is we do adapt. But it also means for some of us who were actually very social before COVID, we maybe still began to become a little bit more insular and become a little bit more comfortable at home. Now, it's not a terrible quality, but for people who, some of us, it did mean that our neurological pathways now post COVID are still telling us, because we're in that habit of thinking, it's still telling us that we are safer at home, and that we are safer indoors, we are safer on our own, we are safer in small groups. And that's not to say you can't live a very fulfilled life, in the quiet at home. But I personally have and still feel that, when a social situation comes up, I often still feel like, do you know what? I don't know if I want to go. I've definitely been that person who has made excuses, or I've experienced, I would say the feelings of social anxiety. Um, and I think that that is a post-COVID symptom, or maybe triggered a sensation of fight or flight. Instead of having it like the beginning, fight or flight about, whoa, you're taking me out of my social world into this small bubble, right? Now I've got these new neurological pathways telling me that's my safe place. So coming out of that, we need to reform and regain those other pathways to change our thinking again. So that feeling and being social actually becomes a little bit more comfortable again, getting out of our comfort zone. I found myself this Easter holiday. I had family over from Canada, which was amazing. And we ended up going into London. And I found myself as well, like in that situation. I haven't actually brought myself into the big city in a while, a place that I used to travel and be all the time before COVID, to be honest with you, all the time. It never fazed me, the busyness or the, having to be like a little bit more I don't want to use the word aggressive, but like, be ready to get on that tube. And actually this time I was watching, like, I don't know what, I started to change the way that I was acting. I was, covering my hands with my jumper or my sweatshirt, and holding onto the rails and getting out my hand sanitizer still, and when we were walking, past Big Ben with the family, I just felt myself, I needed to take some really slow, deep breaths. And it did, it's something that I connected with COVID. I thought, do you know what? This is strange. It used to be my comfort zone, but it's not anymore. And so my message in all of this to talk about is actually just to ask you, like, what did COVID bring up for you? Some of us found some real positives in it. We really learned to like working from home. We had more flexible working hours. Things have changed in that aspect. But again, some of us have become so insulated that we do need to find a way out of that, comfort zone of being, on our own all the time. Because being social does, give us so much as human beings. It gives us confidence. It gives us, again, all of those positive chemicals. We want all that like oxytocin and serotonin, and we want that the positivity that comes with like feeling a sense of belonging. And we only really get that by actually being with somebody, face to face, having those conversations, and more than just, one person. So if COVID has created any sense of social anxiety for you, I just wanted to say like that is fine. But maybe if you start to work out of your comfort zone a little bit more, you might find that it is just a habit. It's just a habitual thing that's happened with our thinking, and it is time to maybe get back into some of those social situations and feel a little bit more comfortable in them, in terms of your thinking. The other thing that was brought up was a lot of people felt a lot of grief. If somebody said to me post COVID or even through COVID, what was the main bit of work that we were doing? And a lot of people were grieving. Grief comes in so many like ways, shapes, and forms. I think grief is quite an interesting piece. All of us maybe experience that in small or bigger capacities. But grief is definitely one that I'd say that comes to the surface because we were all grieving either the life we had before, and grieving what we were missing, grieving experiences that we wish we had, grieving, not being able to be with loved ones. Some of us who live a distance, it was, when will I ever see those people again? And I just think that it's important to pick that up. And if you maybe like so many, maybe feel if you reflected on COVID, have you got back to that social being that you were before, or that a little bit pep in your step? If something has shifted and changed post-COVID, firstly, you're absolutely not alone. I'm going to look at and share some facts and figures with you. But I also wanted to say that like this is a really good time to maybe reflect that like maybe COVID heightened some of these things, and you are now in a safe place to continue to move forward and through that. So I found this like incredible academic article. I just found it quite interesting to kind of see a little bit here of what it is COVID-19, the pandemic resulted. It said COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in negative mental health outcomes throughout the world, and its impact on social interactions and relationships is likely to be evident and problematic, calling that social anxiety. The systematic review qualitatively synthesized data from studies that have reported on the effects of the pandemic on social anxiety. They go on and they suggest that the estimated cases of anxiety disorders globally, there was an additional 76.2 million cases, an increase of 25.6%. And it is likely that mental health will recover to pre-pandemic levels for some, won't recover, sorry, to pre-pandemic levels for some time. Several unique social phenomena have emerged within the pandemic environment. These include government-enforced quarantine and lockdown, work and school closures, physical distancing, and avoidance of non-essential social interactions. As problematic social anxiety is characterized by intense anxiety in social interactions, for example, meeting unfamiliar people, and is maintained through reciprocal relationship between avoidance and fear, and forced social avoidance is likely to exacerbate social anxiety within community and clinical populations. So that's quite big numbers, 76.2 million cases globally, in addition to what was already there globally. That's a lot of people, 25.6% across the world. So I just wanted to say that if you have felt not quite yourself since COVID, not quite where you maybe once were in terms of like your energy and your motivation, and that sort of thing. Or maybe you can kind of trace back a little bit of the triggers of some of, the past trauma and the work that you're doing. I thought that it'd be a really interesting time to just sit and reflect on that. So yeah, hiya. Hello. Um, I was just going through, I was talking a little bit about the impact of COVID, and we were just looking at some of the facts and figures. And I just wanted to bring to light that, I was just saying that we have the piece suggests that 76.2 million cases of anxiety have been shared in, and that's in addition to what was originally there. So 76.2 million cases of anxiety disorders globally. And that's a 25.6% increase. And the reason why I wanted to share that and what we've been talking about is just the impact that COVID has had on some of us or our family members and things like that. And I just think it's worth, working through that. Some of the key factors that have come from it are, working through grief. Some of us still haven't come out of that, like what we missed. I know personally at the time I was pregnant and I grieved a lot. And felt a lot of guilt about living in another country. Some people, it brought up a lot of stuff. My daughter, she never, like I didn't, my family didn't see me pregnant. I wasn't able to share my daughter with them till she was almost 2 years old. All of that stuff weighed very heavy for a while. And in fact, I did seek counseling to talk about that. And I did do some work because that's, I didn't expect it, but I needed to cry that out. But during COVID, we were all like trying to like hold it together, weren't we? And I was saying that we started in at the beginning of it, we all went into a bit of that fight, flight response or freeze response, but we were all stuck like in our own situations. And it's so unique when you talk to people. Like the exercise I suggested was that we sit and write down like the pros of COVID. Sometimes there were pros. There's times when I, miss the sunny sunshine and sitting in the back garden, and having a bit of time, to just sit, which is very, very rare. But equally, the impact of that situation and being on high alert and, watching the news closely and wondering who to trust and what to trust and, were we doing the right thing? And the speculation around, everything from immunizations, beliefs around the disease. There was a lot for us to take in. And so I guess one of the big things is that idea of has it changed us socially? And in terms of academic reviews, they are suggesting that it absolutely has changed us as a like globally, absolutely. Um, I'm just gonna fix the video. So yeah, so it has absolutely affected us, and I wondered what that might look like for you, or even reflect on your own experience. What are the lasting impacts? How do you feel in big groups? Does it not bother you anymore? How did you feel when you first went, back into a bigger social situation than you were before? Did you feel any sense of like, oh, that same fight or flight you got when we were first told we had to stay in and stay home, all of that stuff. So I just think that it's really powerful and interesting to kind of take time to look at some of the key things that I wanted to share with you in terms of like maybe social anxiety. You might not have like SAD, but maybe you do. Sometimes I experience that feeling in like the dark, gloomy times of year. But maybe you have moments where like feeling social does still feel uncomfortable. So I have a few tips and tricks that I thought that I would take you through. And the first one that I'd say is to go back to some of the work that you've done in this course. And I'd say the first thing, if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed at all in a social situation, that could be bigger groups, smaller groups, one-to-ones, whatever, socially, any interaction with human beings. Like me, I didn't expect it, but it hit me like a ton of bricks when I was in the city just a few weeks ago in London. And I felt this like incredible sense of like overwhelm with all of the people. I hadn't been in a situation trying to like wiggle through with, my family. And the first bit of advice, even from like, um psychologist is to breathe, do something practical. So taking that slow, deep breath in and slowly, slowly exhaling. A little reminder, whether mouth open or closed, as long as you work to extend the exhalation, just a quick reminder in some of the content you might have learned already. But that exhalation of breath starts to kind of tap into that common nervous system. So even if the mind feels busy and, anxious and overwhelmed, just taking that slow exhalation actually will calm the body, calm your thinking if you just keep repeating it over and over. And I've always been taught actually that you cannot go into a full panic attack if you're working to exhale as slow as possible. For me, I found that true. My panic attack stopped when I was able to feel the sensation that it was coming on. And my new trigger for that sensation of panic is actually breathe deeply, breathe slowly. Because most often a panic attack comes when the breath is short and sharp. That feeling there. So if you are ever feeling that, or anybody around you, or you ever see, a stranger in the street like having some sort of overwhelming panic attack, it's so common. I'd say the best advice is to count them into a breath. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, and exhale for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Inhale for 3 and get them to exhale. Maybe count them out for 5 counts. Even if they don't do it, it's just about trying to get them to get that exhalation a little bit slower. I've got a little tickle in my throat. Excuse me. So that's the first tip. If you're feeling any sense of overwhelm, or I don't know, something else like myself, my friends, clients have felt is maybe the first time they went outside of like their bubble, they went into like a social situation, there was a party or a gathering. I still sometimes feel this way going maybe to an event where I don't know very many people, that I feel this like, who am I going to talk to? How is that going to feel? Or whatever. So if there's something that does give you some level of like a sensation of this feels uncomfortable, but it's a social thing that, is healthy to do, then I would say to you, the second thing, first take some breaths as you get there or when you're thinking about it. And the second thing I think is really helpful is to visualize before you go into it. So, any social situation, it can be a very hard conversation with somebody. You need to be straight. You need to, have some uncomfortable conversation with somebody at work. But whatever it is that feels socially overwhelming, I think a really great tip is to visualize it first. I think it's incredible, the facts. If Joe Dispenza is probably the king of this concept. If you're ever looking for, science to back it up, but he is so intriguing when he talks about how our consciousness, our conscious mind, we're living it, we're experiencing it, and our subconscious mind, so the things happening in behind the scenes, our body doesn't understand the difference between what actually happens and what we deeply visualize. It's as if the body and the brain have gone through the experience twice, whether you've closed your eyes and visualized it, or whether you've actually been and physically done it before, which I find very interesting. And so I've started to play with these theories, work a lot with it with in my coaching. But that visualization of going into that conversation or going into that social gathering, close your eyes, and I want you to imagine that you're very confident going in to that situation. Imagine yourself upright, imagine yourself smiling, imagining the face calm, the jaw calm, the shoulders calm, imagining the breath really soft. Again, imagining yourself, the energy that you wanted to bring to that situation. So imagining yourself walking in, whether it's on your own and that's really overwhelming, or walking in with, somebody that feels good to be with, whatever that is, taking that deep breath and visualizing before you get there what it's like to walk into that situation. So for some of us, social anxiety is just working one-to-one. It might be sitting in an interview. It might be sitting across from somebody who's like testing you on a driving test. Whatever it is, it's about taking time to like visualize before you go in it how you physically want to feel, look, and be, and really be in that best place. It's something you could do just before you go into that situation. You could do it when you're feeling overwhelmed and thinking about it. flip the script and get yourself into that best possible place. You can get yourself right into the conversation as well. So you can visualize how that conversation goes. You can almost play that conversation the way that it feels good in your head before you get there. If like me, despite looking like an extrovert, I am complete utter introvert. And definitely post COVID, I have felt, going to a situation where I've not met people before. It's like I've lost the ability to like say hello and be friendly to a stranger and respond. Like it's like making a new friend, when you're a little kid feels like, very uncomfortable, not being, with somebody that I know. That's my comfort zone. And so going into those situations now, I often imagine myself like just smiling and saying hello. Hey, how are you? Or, hi. Yeah, like that's it. All it has to do is be like a hi and see what happens. And normally we're met back with a smile, and the person next to you is probably feeling the exact same. But I just think it's really interesting to play those moments in your head, play that through in the, most confident space that you can. And all of a sudden, it's like your body, you have experienced it already before. You do it a few more times. What we're doing is when we talk a little bit about those neurological pathways, it's like we're building those pathways to get out of that comfort zone. And all of a sudden, when you actually physically do it in real life in that conscious space, it feels like you've done it before. And that's because your brain and your body have done that before, whether it's visualization or physical. And that means that you'll feel a little bit more confident, you'll feel easier, and your brain and your body won't go into as much fight or flight because it feels a little bit more familiar. Visualization is very powerful in any aspect. Before you have to present something, or before you go and have an awkward conversation with a family member, whatever it is, that you feel maybe uncomfortable with, that's a really great way forward. My next tip is potentially scripting things out. I don't know if you've ever done that, but for me personally, like if I need to, if I wanted to figure out like how to talk to somebody or talk to a group of people, or work through something, even with my partner, sometimes I fear like having like my voice and coming across wrong, or letting emotion kind of lead. When I feel uncomfortable, sometimes I cry, and I don't like to show that face like in a workplace. And sometimes you do need to voice that like something doesn't feel good. And that social interaction for me is not a comfortable place. And so, there's so many examples that maybe think for you, what makes you feel socially uncomfortable if you do, or maybe post COVID, what are some of the things that feel a little bit like, oh, I kind of do avoid that since then. Maybe it's something you could script out, you could write out like how that conversation could go. And obviously with visualization and scripting, we know you can't like 100% like figure out what people are going to say back to you, but having that script means that you do have an ability to approach things with a calm space, that your body's not as well in so much fight or flight. And especially you can begin to listen more as well, because you have in your brain, in your conscious and your subconscious mind, you have the tools, you have the language, you have the points that you want to make at the forefront of your thinking, and they will be more likely to come out in a more natural way, and you'll feel less like you've missed out on what it is you want to say. So scripting out those conversations, sometimes I've even with my partner, if that's the kind of relationship, sometimes fear upsetting them, but it's something really need to communicate for you, or to move your relationship forward. I've definitely been somebody who's written it out in a whole letter. Sometimes I give that letter out, and sometimes I write it and I'll rip it up, or sometimes I type out an email and decide whether I want to send it or not, or edit it back, because sometimes it starts in emotion. But getting it out on paper is a really healthy way to like work through that stuff. So yeah, those are a few tips. So first one is breath. Your next one is visualization. And your next one is possibly scripting. Your other one is, I would say, buddy up. Buddy up is a really, really good one, because actually, when you are feeling lonely, or whether you are feeling a bit overwhelmed about going into a social I guess something like a bigger social situation, finding somebody to go with you is always great. And then you get that interaction with someone, you get a little bit of that confidence. If you feel like you've been on your own a lot, or you haven't gotten out and seen friends, maybe it is a nice way to, like, say, let's go for lunch, or do you want to grab a coffee, and just get out and talk. That in itself, there's an incredible piece. I'll link it later, a lovely TED Talk to watch, where there's so much science behind not only the impact on the brain when we interact with other humans, no matter how uncomfortable it might feel, but the impact it has on us physically. It physically, like, releases that oxytocin that we need. That's like the that hugging, I suppose, chemical we feel when you kind of get that connection with somebody. We need that. And a lot of these chemicals will start to actually even strengthen your heart. It's really, really amazing stuff. So I'll send that across for you to look at in your spare time. I think it's about 15 minutes. But yeah, such a lovely TED Talk. I'll add it underneath when I post the video, so you can watch that if you feel compelled. I think it's by a woman called Kelly McGonigal. She's great, absolutely great. Somebody to follow as well if you're looking for like healthy tips and in the wellness area. And then my last one, my number 5 tip, is to give yourself words of encouragement. And it's something that comes through a lot of the work that I do, because every time I read about these things, positive affirmations, saying positive things to yourself, writing it on post-it notes, having, a positive quote on your screensaver, whatever it is, but like having a phrase for you that really takes you into a space where you can start repeating and believing it really makes a difference. So one that I use often is like, I am enough. So I'm enough just as I am, like going into that party, or I am enough, going into that interview and that social situation. What I have to say is valued. Like, my feelings are valued. That's a really good one. My feelings matter. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. I'm worthy. So when you're having a conversation, even with a partner, whatever it is, if there's an uncomfortable conversation, that social interaction feels like something we keep avoiding, I think that it's really powerful to remember to say, like, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, because we can become like, so like our voice is taken from us because we're afraid of these social conversations and what we're going to get back. But I would say, going into that, saying that phrase or writing that down. I love this one. I can do hard things. It's really simple. It's a great one for children as well. Like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. You have done hard things, so that's something that's proven for you. But it's just reminding you that you can work through these things. This is, your voice matters, your feelings matter, all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, we kind of started out the session tonight talking about COVID. But I just wanted to kind of see, because I thought COVID was so significant for us, and it kind of feeds into, the massive increase of, the feeling of what did it means to be social. We all became so much more reliant on our phones. I definitely feel like, I'm still trying to get out of that habit of, like, doom scrolling, they call it, like just endlessly looking at stuff, and really checking in on my like social media diet, and times that I can take time out for it or whatever, time away from it. When am I, being fully present? Can I put it away more? And really looking at the impact COVID maybe has had on you. And so I definitely think it's worth going to the activity at the beginning of writing down like any of the positives that come from it, anything that still may be lingering, any time that you maybe continue to feel, like I said, it really surprised me the other day, being in a big crowd going, whoa, like this just does not feel like it used to feel. It used to excite me. And don't get me wrong, it still does, but there was a lot that came with it. There was a shift for me, and I had to remember, that this, the pandemic does have a lot to say for the way that our brains have like retrained ourselves to say that it is safe to stay, in your bubble, in your local area. And I just think it's really interesting to reflect upon, and anything that maybe you could work through. as we continue to move into the, I want to say, a new world, or your old world, and just see like what's different from that and your pre and your post COVID life, because we've all gone through that as a trauma. It is a trauma, no matter how you say it. We've all experienced something sudden, something shocking, and something that absolutely impacted us all in a variety of ways. So no matter how it's impacted on you, talk about it, write about it, and maybe come back to some of these techniques if you do feel like you want to kind of get back into that, like, social life, get yourself out of your comfort zone, and go from there. So yeah, that's kind of tonight's session. I thought that I would finish the session today with a really relaxing little bit of a somatic practice. So just taking the body down a little bit. If you have, any anxiety or stress in the body, especially an evening session, I quite like to do something like that for you. So I'm getting you to link the thumbs. We'll just do the butterfly tap. So bring the hands to the chest. Maybe close the eyes if you feel comfortable and just do a little tap. Nice. Just tap the chest and take a few slow, deep breaths. Maybe close the eyes and exhale. Breathing in and breathing out. But just keep going. Little tap, little breath. Just seeing if it can kind of help you just bring yourself to an even calmer space this evening. Inhale and exhale. Nice. And then just open and close the hands and slowly bring them down. Good. I invite you to sit upright on the chair, the sofa, wherever you are. And we're just going to do a few little circles. So you draw the chest forward, you roll the body over towards one side, and then roll it back. So roll forward and around. Good. So I'm just moving top of the body round and back. Good. Just find those circles. If you feel comfortable, look down or close the eyes. And just allow those circles to come a little quicker so that you feel like you're a little bit lost in those movements. Good. Just let your body kind of whiz around and kind of feel that circle that you're creating. It's really good physically, but also really, really great for nervous system. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly make the circle smaller. Good. Imagine you're kind of making the body go from this bigger circle into a little bit of a cylinder. Circles becoming smaller. Good. Maybe as you get smaller, it becomes a little bit quicker. See if you can make them a little bit smaller yet. If you still have the eyes closed, keep them there, smaller and smaller, until eventually see if you can bring yourself to a slow stop, but only when you feel like the body is ready. And then take a nice slow deep breath in and out. Just pausing there, eyes closed, looking down, and just check in. How are you feeling? Another nice way to calm the mind, calm the body, prepare for sleep, or take yourself out of anything when the brain is busy working, or you're feeling any overwhelm, any feelings of anxiety, whatever it is. A really great practice. We're going to do the other side, and then I'll take you into a lovely little slow relaxation. Breathing in, leaning forward. Roll the body the other way and back. Again, you can make this really small or really big if you want to get a little bit more stretch in the spine. Great one to do at night. Take them a little slower and a little bigger to start. Good, and then continue to move. Closing the eyes and looking down if you feel comfortable. Finding that lovely little whiz around. Almost like a little twister. You've got this busyness going around, this quiet in the center. And then begin to just take a deep breath with me in. And as we exhale, make the circles maybe a little smaller, but that might even make it go a little quicker. Just see You can't do it wrong. Begin to make the circles a little smaller again, a little smaller again, until the body becomes to a nice, like upright. You can feel yourself getting to that tall posture. And then eventually, when it feels right, the body's still taking circles, just let it. When you feel like it's a natural ending, just stop and sit in stillness. Good. Eyes closed. Breathing in with me slowly through the nose. And slowly, slowly exhaling. Just holding there. And in your mind's eye, I invite you just to visualize, the best possible start to your day tomorrow. Just want you to visualize yourself stretching out in your bed, feeling the comfort of your pillow, the warmth of your duvet. Maybe let a little smile slowly creep into the face. So you think about beginning the day with a sensation of positivity. Imagine yourself just stretching arms up over the head. You want to take that stretch, you can actually do that now. You don't have to. Just imagining and visualizing that lovely feeling, that stretch, and slowly, slowly bringing everything back down. And just slowly imagine yourself rolling out of bed, feeling good, feeling the energy that you want for that day, feeling confident, feeling the sunshine pouring through the windows, and really getting energized with that lovely feeling and warmth. Take a little time to just sit and watch yourself, visualize yourself there, feeling calm and feeling ready for the day. Soft in the face, relaxed in the shoulders. And then asking yourself, what is the first thing you want to do? Hopefully, we can maybe, most of us reach for our phones. Maybe tomorrow, try and leave that. Maybe the first thing you do is kind of stand up and make your way down to the kettle if that's your jam. Maybe get yourself a glass of water, something to drink to start the day, pop the kettle on, and just maybe stop and listen to the kettle and breathe in and slowly breathe out. Maybe you can tell yourself while you're stood there, today is going to be a great day. Today, I can tackle anything that comes my way. I can do hard things, and I'm enough. And I want you to feel that in your body as you sit and wait for that kettle to finish or the water to fill up in your cup. I want you to feel just confident, calm, peaceful, excited even to kind of tackle whatever it is on your list, whether it's mundane or whether it is really exciting. I want you to imagine that whatever it is, if you could get one thing maybe throughout the day, somebody that you might want to talk to, somebody that's going to brighten your day, maybe make a point then to phone them on your way into work or give them a really big hug if they live in your household, or send a nice text message. See if you can start your day with a really positive social interaction. Who do you want to, send kindness to start your day? If there are people around you, who do you want to give those big hugs to? Or, if you've got children, maybe that day you do something a little bit different, cut their sandwich into a heart and or write something on the foil in the in their lunchbox. Whatever it is, what can you do to bring a little sparkle to your morning? And as you visualize yourself just feeling great, and just, remind yourself that today is a great day, that you can do hard things, that you are enough. You can tackle anything that comes your way. Breathing in, slowly breathing out. Maybe ending with a little smile. And that's the end of our session today. Hopefully, that little practice at the end is something you can go back on and repeat if you found it helpful. Nice way to kind of end your day, a nice way to set yourself up for tomorrow, for any social interactions you have, whether you find them easy or not. Really great advice to take on for yourself or to share with others around you who might be experiencing that social anxiety. And remember, you're absolutely normal if that's something that you are feeling, especially post COVID. Peace and love, guys. Have a lovely night.